Okay, so we are on Daf Tetzayin Amud Bet. The truth is we started from, let's go back to where it says Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi. So Tetzayin Amud Bet, 4 lines from the bottom towards the end of the line. So the Gemara shares a bombshell. This is really like a bombshell sugya. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi. So Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav Asi, Oved kochavim shekidesh bizman hazeh choshishin likidushin. If a goy is mekadesh a lady, bizman hazeh, we're worried maybe she's really mikudeshet, and she needs a get. Now, there's no kiddushin by a goy. So what in the world is going on? So he says, Shema ma'aseret hashvatim hu. Maybe this person is not really a goy. Maybe he's from the aseret hashvatim. Now, just historically, aseret hashvatim, at some point, there was a split. There was a split between, after Shlomo HaMelech, there was a split between Shevet Yehuda and Binyamin, and the other Shvatim, they were in the Galil. Shevet Yehuda and Binyamin were in Yehuda Veshomron, and the other Shvatim were in the Galil. And at some point, when Melech Ashur came, Sanchev Melech Ashur, he banished the Aseret HaShvatim. He sent them behind some river, he exiled them and banished them. So Rav Asi says, if a goy now comes and is mekadesh, maybe he's one of these people, maybe he's a Jew. So you have to be choshesh that, he thinks he's a goy, but maybe he's really a Jew. So you have to be choshesh that maybe she's really mekudesh and she needs a get. So the Gemara says, 1 second. V'akol de parish miruba parish. We have a rule. Anybody who comes, we assume they're coming from the Rov. Rov out there in the world is goyim. So you assume that the guy is a goy. Why would you assume that the guy is a Jew? So beduchta de keviyeh. The Gemara says we're talking about a place that they're kavua. Now we're going to go with Tosfot's understanding of this. Tosfot says there are some towns where we know that they are rov. The Asheret HaShvatim settled there, and they're rov in those towns. So we're talking about some guy from those towns. One of those towns came and is mekadesh. You assume he's from the Asheret HaShvatim. Dama Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana. Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana teaches, the pasuk says that when Melech Ashur sent out the 10 Shvatim, he says, Vayanchem Bachlach Uvchavor Nahar Gozan V'arei Madai. He sent them to these places, Chalach, Chavor, Nahar Gozan, Arei Madai. So the Gemara explains what all these cities are. So Chalach, Ze Chalzon. Chalach is the city of Chalzon. Chavor, Ze Chadiev. It's a city of Chadiev. Nahar Gozan, Zo Ginzak. Nahar Gozan it's called the Ginzak. It's a certain river. Arei Madai, you ready for this one? Elu Ze Zu Hamdan. Kind of sounds like Hamadan. Possible that it's Hamadan. V'chavrotean, it's suburbs. And there's actually a different girsa here. When we did this is a very similar to, we did a very similar Gemara when we did Kiddushin, brought down a little bit of a different girsa. One of the cities was called Nawand. Which, it's a city. So that's where the Rasht, I think, is also a city.
I want to observe. In that time, that area was all like a Middle East.
I'm assuming all these places are around that area. Yeah, around that area.
Arab Persia. It wasn't in Europe.
I would assume so. No.
Places, yeah.
Yeah. When we did this Gemara and Kiddushin, when we mentioned all the cities, a lot of the people were saying they recognized some of the names.
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, Amri La, some say that Zu Nehar v'Chavrotea. It's Nihar and its suburbs. So the Gemara says, okay, Chavrotea Haman. What are the suburbs exactly that we're talking about? So Amar Shmuel, Krach, Mushchi, Chidki, Vedumkia. Okay, those are the names of the suburb cities. Either way, Amar Rabbi Yochanan v'Chulan Lifsol. All of those cities, they're all Pisulim. So why? Because
for what?
Meaning their yichus is pasul. Their yichus, no. It means their yichus is pasul. Rashi says means they're mamzerim because they left town. They didn't have any yeshiva, any navi, any they went and they just assimilated and we assumed that they were over isurim and they didn't keep their relationships with kedusha and they did what the goyim around them were doing and that results in mamzerim. So ki amrite kameh de Shmuel. So when he said this halacha, so again, this is all Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Asi. He said that if a goy from one of these cities is mekadesh nowadays, we're worried maybe he's from the Aseret HaShvatim, one of the 10 Shvatim, and his kiddushin is kiddushin. Now you have to realize this is many years after the Aseret HaShvatim were exiled, were banished. We're talking Rav Asi, right? Rav Asi is an Amorah. The Aseret HaShvatim were many, many hundreds of years beforehand. So, Ki Amrita Kameh de Shmuel, when he said this halacha in front of Shmuel, that if a goy is mekadesh nowadays, we're worried that it's a real kiddushin. So Shmuel said, no. Amar le bincha haba min Yisraelit karui bincha. When the Torah says bincha, your son that comes from a Jewish lady is considered your son. Ve'in bincha haba min ha'ovedet kochavim karui bincha. But a child that you have that comes from a goya, meaning if the mother is not Jewish, that's not called bincha. Now we learned this from a pasuk. It's going to come up in a few dapim, so we're not going to get into the limud now. But we learned from a pasuk that if the mother is Jewish, then the child is Jewish. But if a Jewish man has a child with a non-Jewish lady, then the child is not Jewish. So it's not called bincha ela bina. Therefore, the Aseret HaShvatim, they left. They went. They became assimilated. And if they became assimilated, then we assume that they took goyim as wives. So even if their lineage from their father's side maybe is the Aseret HaShvatim, but the child is a goy. So what are you worried about the kiddushin? Their children are goyim because they took wives that are not Jewish. So the Gemara says, okay, fine, that works for the child of the men of the Aseret HaShvatim. V'aika banot, what about the women? There are women of the Aseret HaShvatim that went, and their children are Jewish. So maybe their children are Jews that are mamzerim or psulim, but they're still Jews nonetheless, and we should be worried that their kiddushin is a real kiddushin. So it's true. The ones that came from the males of the Aseret HaShvatim, they're probably not Jewish anymore. Fine. But the ones that came from the females should be Jewish. V'amar Ravina, Shmamina ben bitecha haba min ha'oved kochavim karui bincha. And Ravina teaches that we learn that ben bitecha, your grandchild of a Jewish mother, even though the father is a goy, meaning if you have a goy man and a Jewish woman, that child is considered Jewish. So the Jewish ladies of the Aseret HaShvatim who were banished and exiled, even though they were with men that were goyim, but their children are considered Jewish. Their daughter's son or whatever is a Jewish guy, and if maybe he's coming and he's being mekadesh, and maybe it's a Jewish guy. So the Gemara says, Gemiri, we have the following Kabbalah that we learned, that debinta dehahu dara itztaruye itztaru. The females of that generation, itztaruye itztaru. They had some condition that they were not able to become pregnant. So, according to this version of the conversation, just to recap, what happened was Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav Asi, he said that, we're worried nowadays that if somebody from one of these towns is mekadesh a lady, even though they're acting as goyim, maybe they're really from the Aseret HaShvatim, and maybe they're really Jewish, and she really needs a get. Maybe the kiddushin was from a Jewish guy. Now, Shmuel, when he heard this, he said, no, not true. Because the men of the Aseret HaShvatim, if they took goyim as wives, those children are not Jewish. The ladies of the Aseret HaShvatim, they couldn't have children. There was some disease, something, I don't know exactly what, but they could not have children. So therefore, there isn't anybody Jewish from the Aseret HaShvatim left over in those cities. And therefore, according to that, there's no chashash that any of the people who are coming from those cities and being mekadesh a lady are actually Jewish, and there's no reason that she should need a get. Ikadamri, some say ki amrita kamei de Shmuel, when he said this chidush in front of Shmuel that we're worried about kiddushin from people who come from those towns. Amar le Shmuel told him lo zazu mishamat she'asaum ovdei kochavim gmurim, that Chachamim determined, they kind of like revoked their Jewish citizenship, their Jewish visa, and they were no longer considered Jews from the Aseret HaShvatim. Shnei Emar, the pasuk says, "Ba'Hashem bagadu ki banim zarim yuladu." It says they rebelled against Hashem. Ki banim zarim yuladu. They had children that were zarim, meaning children that were considered not Jewish. Their Jewish identity was revoked. Yativ Rav Yosef achorei de Rav Kahana. Okay, so that was that Gemara. That's the end of that. Rav Yosef achorei de Rav Kahana. So Rav Yosef, he sat behind Rav Kahana. V'yativ Rav Kahana kameh de Rav Yehuda. And Rav Kahana was sitting in front of Rav Yehuda. So you have Rav Yosef, Rav Kahana, Rav Yehuda all sitting together. V'yativ v'ka'amar. And he sat down and he was saying the following. Atidin Yisrael davde yom atova ki charvi tarmud. That Bnei Yisrael are going to make a Yom Tov. They're going to make a special holiday when the city of Tarmud is destroyed. So Rashi explains, why are they going to make what's the big deal of the city of Tarmud being destroyed? Rashi says because there were a lot of psulim there, a lot of mamzerim there, and it would cause problems with the yichus. So they're going to be very happy when they don't have to deal with that anymore. V'achariv, the Gemara says, what do you mean? That city is already destroyed. So the Gemara says, no, Hahu Tamud. That's the city of Tamud, not Tarmud. Different city. Hahu Tamud Havai. Rav Ashi Amar, Hainu Tarmud, Hainu Tamud. Rav Ashi says, no, it's the same city. Tarmud is the same city. So what does it mean they're going to make a party when it's destroyed? It was already destroyed. So Ichpulihu de Michpal. It was like doubled up the city. So Charev Mihai Gisa, Otiv Mihai Gisa. When one side of it would be destroyed, they would resettle on a different side. And Vicharev Mihai Gisa, Otiv Mihai Gisa. And if the other side would be destroyed, they would settle it on the opposite side. Yativ Rav Ham. So that's piece 2. Yativ Rav Hamnuna Kame de Ula. Rav Hamnuna sat in front of Ula, V'kahave B'shemata. And he was asking questions, he was asking good questions. So Amar, Magavra o Maguvre, Ilav de Harpanya Mate. So Ula said to Rav Hamnuna, he said, Magavra o Maguvre, what a great Talmid Chacham. I see your questions are very strong. What a great Talmid Chacham, if not for the fact that you're from a town called Harpanya. So Ichsif, Rav Hamnuna, he got embarrassed. Ula just said, you're such a great Talmid Chacham, too bad you're from this town. So he got embarrassed, So Amar Le, so Ula said back to him, he said, Kesef Gulgalta Lehecha Yavd. He said, where do you give your taxes to? He saw that he was embarrassed. He tried to make him feel a little bit better. He said, okay, what town do you give your taxes to? Amar Le Lefum Nahara. He said, well, I'm a resident of Pum Nahara. I give my taxes to Pum Nahara. Amar Le, so he said, so Ula said to him, Imken mi Pum Nahara. So if that's the case, you're a resident of Pum Nahara, so don't worry about the fact that you come from Harpanya. You're really from Pum Nahara. My Harpanya, what's this town of Harpanya? Amar Rabbi Zera, Har Shahakol Poninbo. It's a mountain. Harpanya literally means a mountain that you turn to. So Har Shahakol Poninbo. It's a mountain that everybody turns to. Meaning it was a town that all of the rejects, all of the pisulim who couldn't find the shidduch in someplace else because they didn't have good yichus, because they maybe come from mamzerim or some other psul, they would go to Harpanya. That was like the town that all the rejects and all those people would go to. So it was known as a town with bad yichus. B'matnita Tana, in a Braita we learned, Kol she'en makir mishpachto v'shivto nifne lesham. Anyone who didn't really know which shevet, which family they come from, they would go to Harpanya. Again, similar idea. Amar Rava. Yeah, they're Jewish, but they just don't have a clear, good yichus. Amar Rava. Welcome back. Amar Rava. Vehi amuka mi Sheol. Rava says that being from that city is worse than Sheol. Sheol means the grave, but it also is a reference to Gehenom, certain level of Gehenom. saying being from that city is even worse than Gehenom. Why? So Rashi said, let's read the pasuk. Shneimar, the pasuk says, Miyat Sheol efdem, from Sheol, from Gehenom, I'm gonna redeem them. I'm gonna take them out. Mimavet egalim, I'm gonna be goel them. I'm gonna redeem them from death. V'ilu pesul didhu leilu takanta, but the pesul in this world, there's nothing to do about it. There's no way to figure. I mean, the guy is pasul. He's pasul. What are you gonna do? He's a mamzer. He's a mamzer. What are you gonna do? Like Gemara in Kiddushin, we learn talks
The guy
about.
has no choice. Why they still is when the guy has no choice, what he should do?
I don't understand what your question is. What?
Yeah, if he doesn't go to that area, okay, then no.
Oh no, yeah, we're just saying it's unfortunate, but it's worse for him than being in Gehenom, because Gehenom there's a back door, there's a way out, but being stuck as a psul in Olam Hazeh, he's stuck. Right, let's finish up the perek. Pesulei de Harpania, Mishum Pesulei de Mishon. The Pesulim in Harpania, they really originate from Mishon. There were people who were Mamzirim, Pesulim in the town of Mishon, and they ended up moving to Harpania. So the Pesulim of Harpania really come from Mishon. Upsulei de Mishon, Mishum Pesulei de Tarmud. And the people who are Pesulim in Mishon, they really come from Tarmud. Pesulei de Tarmud, Mishum Avdei Shlomo. And the Psulim people in Tarmud, we learned were because of Avdei Shlomo, because Shlomo's Avadim took Jewish wives, and then they had children, and those children we said were Mamzerim. Damre Inshi, Kava Rabba v'Kava Zuta, a large measure and a small measure. This is a phrase, a saying that people say, a large measure and a small measure. Migandar v'Azil Lish'ol, rolls and goes to Gehenom, Umish'ol le-Tarmud, and then from Gehenom to Tarmud, and Mitarmud le-Mishon, and from Tarmud to Mishon, and Mishon le-Harpania, and from Mishon to Harpania. What do you see from here? You see that after Gehenom, something worse. There's something worse. Being from those towns are worse. It's worse. So, no. It's saying it's metaphorically explaining that those towns are worse than Gehenom. It's like you say, being from, being from New York is worse than Gehenom.
For who?
So, for the guy who is the psul, he's stuck. He has no way out. Let's read this Rashi. Rashi says, Vihi amuka. You see that Rashi, Vihi amuka? Rashi says, V'ra'a ledavar ze yoter migehenom. In this aspect, it's even worse than Gehenom. It doesn't mean it just means with this specific aspect, it's worse than Gehenom. The liyordei Gehenom ika takanta. The people that go to Gehenom, so there's a takana. Dichtiv miyat sheol eftem mimavet egalem. I'm going to take them out. V'ilu psulei didhu leilu takanta. But these psulim from these towns, there's no takana for them.
That means even the Gehenom doesn't kill them. Yeah?
No, that's not what it means. It means that there's no, on Olam Hazeh, there's no takana for them. There's no way that they can marry into the kahal. They're stuck with their situation. Okay, there's a Tosfot here, but okay, so Hadran alach chamesh esrei nashim, that's the end of the first perek. Mazal Tov. We're going to continue just a little bit into the next perek, so we start the next...
So Shmuel is going to give a nice kiddush this Shabbat?
I barely did it.
Huh?
I have to go back. I missed 10 dapim.
Yeah, man, I really wanted to put up this projection, but whatever, we'll work on it for tomorrow. Let's do it without the...
Is that working?
Huh? No, I don't know, those keys are not working to put in the password. Okay, either way, it's nothing new for today that we haven't done before. So one of the cases, just back into Yevamot, this perek is not a super hard perek, it's just a bunch of cases, but once you have the cases, once you have the foundation, it's very easy. So one of the cases that we spoke about in the first Mishnah was Eshet Achiv Shelo Haya Ba'olamo. If you have two brothers, Reuven and Shimon, who are alive at the same time. Reuven dies. Okay, he has a wife that falls to Yibum to Shimon. Then a third brother, Levi, is born. Yeah, Levi is born after Reuven died. Reuven and Levi were never in the world together at the same time. So that last brother, Levi, can never do Yibum to Reuven's wife or a co-wife of her wife etc., etc., ad sof haolam. That was the case. That's just what we're going to focus on in the Mishnah.
Try one more time. I think it's going to work now.
It's
The rabbi one day. The rabbi that was the rabbi's house for one day.
it's the keys are not
So
working.
it's taking like
Is it the numbers or the letters?
Nothing. Oh, something worked. What just happened?
If I have your number locked.
No, it's the letters that are not working.
The letters are not working?
Yeah, the numbers work. Okay, weird. Whatever. Let's speak to Hodi. Okay. Either way, Ketzad eshet achiv shelo haya ba'olamo. What's the case of the wife's brother, eshet achiv shelo haya ba'olamo, that he was never alive at the time of that brother? So shnei achim, you have two brothers. Umet echad mehem. One of them died. So Reuven and Shimon both married, or it doesn't matter, whatever. Reuven is at least married with no children, and he dies. V'nolad lahen ach. And then they have a third brother who's born. V'achagach yibem hasheni et eshet achiv. Then the second brother, who was alive at the same time, he marries eshet achiv. He marries the wife of Reuven. He does yibum. Umet, and then he dies
Without the children.
without children. So Harishona, the first woman, we're gonna see in the Gemara what this means, but the first woman, Yotza mishum eshet achiv shelo haya ba'olamo. She does not do yibum because she's to the third, to Levi, because she's eshet ach shelo haya ba'olamo. Vashniya mishum tzarata. Two brothers died. Yeah. You know, let me try one more time. Let me see if I can get this. To sign in your fingerprint, put the fingerprint. Okay, fingerprint. No, not working. You know what? You know what I could do.
Why should reboot? Reset it.
Here, I'll do this.
Learn me every single book of the Torah. The dot darkei yichapsu, and you should know my ways like Yevamot. Right? So.
Oh, that wasn't working the whole time.
That's the pasuk. Now how does it how does it darsh the pasuk?
Still not working.
Rabbi Yochanan gets
But doesn't go.
Okay, yeah, something else. Okay.
Just reset it.
Right?
Just turn it on.
He says, I have a pasuk in the darsh now. He says this pasuk, right? Oto yom yom darshan. Right? You should
If
learn
there was
day,
just
day,
Reuven,
and you should know my way.
and then
She's already there. Is halacha is one lady killed two brothers, the third brother she are not allowed to marry?
Oh, so it doesn't lav dafka is it the same wife? You're talking about katla, which we're going to get to. We're going to get to the halachot of katlanit. That's
is there any yibum with the? If, let's say there's just Reuven, and then Reuven dies, and then they have then another brother comes into the world. Forget
So-
having Shimon.
right. In that case, there's no yibum. The reason we put a second brother in between is to tell you even the co-wife of her, meaning in the first case there's no yibum. There's nobody to do yibum to at the time that she died. In this case, there is, meaning when Reuven died, she can't just go marry whoever she wants. There is someone for her to do yibum to, and then so she's connected to the family. So then another brother is born. Since she's connected to the family when that brother is born, that's eshet ach shelo haya ba'olamo. Okay, let's just try to do what we can without the projection, and then Zara Hashem will put it on. This is it working now? No. No. Okay, I have to speak to Hodi. Yeah. Okay, so again, Mishnah. Ketzad eshet achiv shelo haya ba'olamo. Shnei achim, met echad mehen. Two brothers, one died. V'nolad lahen ach. The third brother is born. V'achar kach yibem hasheni et eshet achiv. The middle brother, Shimon, married Reuven's wife, Umet, and then he died. So Harishona, now Shimon has two wives. He has his original wife, and he has Reuven's wife they did Yibum to. So Harishona yotza mishum eshet achiv. The first lady, she is eshet achiv shelo haya ba'olamo of Levi, of the third brother. Therefore, she doesn't have Yibum or Chalitza. She could go marry whoever she wants. Vashniya, and the second wife, Mishum Tzarata. She's the co-wife of Eshet Achiv Shelo Haya Ba'olamo. So she also goes out, no Yibum, no Chalitza.
But
Okay.
the third brother is going to do Yibum.
No, the third brother was not alive at the time that the first brother was. So any lady from the first brother is Eshet Ach Shelo Haya Ba'olamo. She's an erva on Levi on the last brother, and therefore there's no Yibum Chalitza for her or for any of her tzarot, for her co-wives. Now, Asaba Ma'amar, if Shimon didn't do Yibum, but he did what's called Ma'amar, okay? It's Kiddushin Durabanan. Ma'amar is the Yavam. By Yibum, there's no real actual Kiddushin. The guy, the Yavam, just goes to the Yavama, they have Biyah, that's it. Right? There's already a connection. It's like just continuing, stepping into the shoes of the deceased brother, kind of continuing the Kiddushin and the marriage that he already started. So you don't need to go through the whole process of Kiddushin. Rabbanan have something called Ma'amar, which is basically, it's a Kiddushin that Midoraita means absolutely nothing. Midorabbanan, it has some halachot that come with it. So the Yavam, let's say Shimon, the middle brother, he did Ma'amar to this lady, to Reuven's wife. He didn't do Yibum yet, he did Ma'amar. Umet, and then he died. So for the actual wife of Reuven, she's for sure out to Levi. She's Eshet Ach Shelo Hayal Ba'olamo. But let's say Shimon had another wife. Okay? So, as far as Levi is concerned, Shimon's wife is not a tzarat erva, because mideoraita, he only did ma'amar, which means nothing. Mideoraita, Shimon only has one wife. The kiddushin that he did to Reuven's wife for Yibum means nothing mideoraita. Midurabanan, he did kiddushin to Reuven's wife. So Shimon's wife, it would be much easier if we had a diagram. Shimon's wife, I hope everybody's following. Shimon's wife, on a deoraita level, is not a tzarat ervan. She requires either Yibum or Chalitza to Levi. But on a derabanan level, she looks like a tzarat erva. So what do you do in this case? So Asaba Ma'amar, if Shimon, the middle guy, did Ma'amar, Vemet, and then he died, so Shniya Choletzet Velo Mityavemet. The second lady, she does Chalitza, not Yibum. Okay? Because Midyoraita, she requires Yibum or Chalitza. Midrabanan, it looks bad. She can't do Yibum because she looks like a Tzarat Erva. Midrabanan, she's some type of Tzarat Erva. Therefore, she does Chalitza, not Yibum, to cover all bases. Okay, the Gemara Be'ezrat Hashem will start tomorrow.
Let's review.
Yeah. Two brothers were alive at the same time.
Yeah.
Reuven and Shimon were alive at the same time. Levi...
Reuven dies.
Reuven dies, yeah.
Shimon
Levi is born after Reuven dies.
After Reuven dies. Okay.
Yes.
Shimon
Yeah.
Yevamot with the
So the
wife.
first case in the Mishnah is Shimon does Yibum. Yeah.
Now Shimon dies.
Yes.
So what's Levi here?
So Levi cannot do Yibum or Chalitza to the original wife of Reuven.
Because
she remains.
She had two wives.
No, even on the one that did Yibum, because once he was born, he was never in the world at the same time as Reuven. All of Reuven, anyone who was married to Reuven is off limits for him. She becomes an erva, and not only does she become an erva, but the other wife that she's married together with to Shimon also becomes an erva.
But she is married Shimon now.
Yes.
The case of Reuven closed.
No.
Now
So the way.
she's wife of Shimon.
Right. So we say there's a svara called Ne'esra. Once she became Asura, there was no heter of Yibum on her. That's it. Finished. No heter of Yibum. Okay, well, Be'ezrat Hashem get more into it tomorrow. It's not as intimidating as it seems the next time. It's not that.
Stop.